Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer not coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. Instead, we are on Radio Row for Super Bowl 59 presented by LaBerge Baton Rouge. And fired up, you are here with us. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali are back there on the ones and twos. And I will tell you that things have drastically ramped up in terms of intensity and buzz in New Orleans over the last 24 hours. And our guest list reflects that today. We've got a ton of folks that we're going to chat with over the next couple of hours. Q Myers from ESPN Radio's national lineup is going to be here in about 30 minutes. Miss Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to chat with him at the end of this hour. Laura Oakman from the NFL on Fox and Westwood One is going to be working the sidelines of the Super Bowl. She's going to be with us. Adam Budelli is going to be here. He is with StubHub. I'm fascinated in that conversation based on the ticket prices that I've seen on some of the various apps that I have looked at, and I just kind of want to get a sense for how that works with the Super Bowl because it's quite an event here, and so we've got tons and tons to do over the next 2 hours. We're looking forward to our conversation with Bryan Bresee, who's been really, really good for the New Orleans Saints in his first 2 seasons, coming off a great year. And I think I see Bryan right there. He's going to come on and grab a headset. Just had a fantastic second season with New Orleans, and so we're going to chat with him a little bit, get a little local coverage, and then we'll kind of get to a more national look at this Super Bowl. So Bryan's coming on around right now. He's going to grab a headset and get all set up, and we'll start our show the same way we start every single day. That's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Starting off a fantastic way here on this Wednesday with Bryan Bresee of the New Orleans Saints. Just wrapped up season number 2 in New Orleans. Bryan, thanks for a little bit of time. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Doing very well. So I want to ask this. I understand that's a 17-game grind, and you played all 17 this year. How fast does it take for your body to feel a little bit normal again? Have we gotten there yet?
Yeah. I mean, I think the little like nicks and bruises every week, they'll clear up pretty quickly after. So, man, getting back into training now and on to next season.
Awesome. Well, this was a great year for you personally, and I want to talk about that first before we kind of get to the big picture with the Saints. You had 7.5 sacks, 7 more tackles for loss, got back to the quarterback, and did, from my vantage point, a great job in pass rush. How would you assess your second season with New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, man, it was definitely a jump from year one. I think there's still, a lot of upside that I still can reach, and man, that's just going into this offseason, just focusing on doing everything I can to reach my full potential.
What are some things you feel like you need to work in going to year 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of stuff. I don't think anything's sharpened all the way to the point that I want it to be yet. I think I can improve my game in every aspect. So, man, just trying to find all those things, watching film, talking to coaches, other players, and figuring it out and continuing to improve.
How valuable is having Cam Jordan on your defensive line, Chase Young, who's had a really good early run in his career? I mean, some of the veterans that you played alongside, how big a help is that to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, man, Cam has been awesome for me. Like Cam, Grando, all those guys, Bank, they've been awesome. Just guys that have been in the league. You got guys like Colin Saunders, who's won a Super Bowl. Chase, Cam's been in the playoffs, many times. Just those kind of guys that come in and you see what it's supposed to look like, how they work, how they, train, how they go about their lives of just being a pro. So just having those guys and watching somebody like Cam, who's 34, year 14, the old man, but just having somebody like him who still comes in every day and you just see him busting his butt up and down the field, working hard, running to the ball, man. Just somebody like that. It's motivational for everybody on the team, the younger guys, anybody, I believe. So he's been awesome.
Bryan Bresee is our guest here on Radio Row here in New Orleans, getting ready for Super Bowl 59. Some really highs early in the season for y'all as a team. Obviously a valley in the middle, and then kind of a rally there once the coaching change was made. Emotionally, what was that like for you and for the locker room?
Man, it was a lot of ups and downs, like you said, man. It was a tough season in that aspect, but I feel like just the guys that we had in the locker room, just nobody ever really lost faith. Everyone stayed just kind of like it always felt like we were going to win the next game no matter what in that locker room. And I think that's something special about us, man. There was never any break in faith, no matter who our coach was, what the circumstance was, who was playing, who wasn't playing. In my mind, and it felt like everybody else's mind, we were always going to win the next game. So, I mean, you just gotta go into every season like that, and coming into this next year, man, I'm excited for it. I think we got guys to win games and make a push.
Are you paying attention to the coaching search? I know that's kind of our job here. You're worried about resting up and getting ready for next season. Are you paying attention to that at all?
I see it every once in a while. You know, at the end of the day, I'm just kind of waiting to hear like you guys are. So, you know, I think there's a lot of faith in the people in our building to make a good decision. And you know, whatever they choose, I'm excited for it. Blake
Groupier was here on Monday. We've spoken with Cam Jordan a little bit earlier. Demario Davis was here a little bit earlier. So we've talked to a few guys from your locker room. Darren Rizzi everyone's sung his praises. Can you speak to the job that he did and kind of what he meant to New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But Rizzi, from when I first got here last year, you know, him just being the special teams coach, he's just so well respected in whatever he did, you know, from the team. So, man, when he took over, it wasn't like there wasn't a blink of an eye. Like everyone, you know, kind of rallied behind him. We knew what he was about. We knew what he was going to bring to our team, and high energy. He, you know, made sure we were ready to play on Sundays, and you know, a lot of love for Coach Rizzi. So, man, just looking. Happy for him.
So let's talk about a different topic here. We'll kind of shift gears. We're on locally in Baton Rouge, and certainly we've got affiliates in New Orleans as well. But LSU and Clemson open the season coming up this year. First, I want you to tell me something I don't know about Dabo Swinney.
Oh, something you don't know?
Yeah.
Man,
putting you on the spot a little bit?
I know. No.
What was it like to play for him?
Man, he was awesome. I got nothing but good things to say about Coach Swinney. He was awesome to me and my family. To, you know, whatever you see on video of Coach Swinney is how he is in real life. So, and I think that says something about him and his character. So, I mean, nothing but amazing things to say about him and you know what he's built at Clemson. So,
LSU opens at Clemson, the little Death Valley y'all got over there on the East Coast. So what can Tiger fans expect when they head over there for the opener next year?
It'll be a great atmosphere. I'm trying to get Tyron to let me catch a ride with him to the game. If it's week 0, I don't even know when it is. If
it's the first week, it's Labor Day weekend, so you won't be playing yet.
Yeah, so we might be able to make that trip. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be an awesome experience. I think Clemson's a special place, you know, along with LSU, I'm sure. I haven't got to make a trip up there, but it'll be a great atmosphere. You know, I'm excited to watch, and like I said, hopefully I can make it up.
You got a pick for the game coming up on Sunday?
It's a tough question. I've gotten that.
Y'all played Kansas City, obviously.
We played both of them.
Played Philly, too, yeah.
Man, I think it would be tough for me to pick one team in this situation. I think both teams are really talented on both sides of the ball. I think they're just really well-rounded teams. Like, you don't really see a weak spot on either team. So I think, it could really be a coin toss, 50-50 here.
I know you're here with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Tell us about kind of what you're doing on their behalf.
Yeah, so we're here for the Big Draft campaign. You know, Big Brothers, Big Sisters just reopened in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. It was closed down from Katrina until now. So, man, just them getting reopened. They're trying to it's called the Big Draft campaign, trying to draft 10,000 new Big Brothers and Big Sisters into the program. Right now there's 30,000 kids that are out without a mentor, and so just trying to cut that number down, and a lot of them are males. So, man, just looking for a way to help the youth and get involved. You can go sign up at bebig.org, you know, to help the cause and get involved.
Bebig.org. We'll put that in our YouTube chat here coming up in a little bit. Bryan, great job on your second season.
Thank
Continued
you so much.
health and a ton of success moving forward.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
That's Bryan Bresee here on Radio Row, getting you ready for Super Bowl 59. Always appreciate a little bit of time from him as he'll get on down, and certainly got a lot of important work to do with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Again, we'll put that link in the chat here moving forward. That's our Genesis opening drive. Remember, every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. We'll take a time out. We've got some hoops to talk about. We've got a lot of guests that are cycling through. Q Myers from ESPN Radio is going to come up here in about 20 minutes. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Alondra's coming over here trying to get me to put Mardi Gras beads on my head. Well, I got a mic on my head. But we're here at Radio Row, Super Bowl 59. We're brought to you by LeBear's Baton Rouge. I mentioned this at the top of the show. I was kind of seeing when Bryan was going to check in. The intensity level from Monday to now is not even close, and that's kind of what we anticipated. All of the national shows are now up and kicking around us, and that's really brought in a ton of big-name guests. Matt's going to speak with Demario Davis a little bit later on his show. Just had Bryan Bresee there. Saw Pac-Man Jones just walk by a minute ago. Mark Ingram was right next to us just a minute ago. Marcus Allen was here. I know that Jake's about to interview over on his SiriusXM show, Jerome Bettis and Marshall Falk, and a ton of folks there. So there's a lot going on here on Radio Row, and it's just a ton of fun. So we appreciate the folks from the Bears, Baton Rouge, allowing us to make this happen here down in New Orleans. Y'all know that I'm going to find somehow, some way to shoehorn just a little bit of baseball into the show. We're going to talk Super Bowl the rest of the way here with Q Myers, as well as the play-by-play voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's Mitch Holthus. So we'll do that the rest of the hour. But there was some announcement from the SEC earlier today regarding baseball with the preseason all-conference teams and order of finish projections. 3 LSU Tigers were first-team all-SEC selections by the SEC coaches. Jared Jones, the first-team first baseman. Cade Anderson, a first-team pitcher, which I find very interesting considering the fact that he didn't necessarily play a huge role on last year's team. And then Gavin Guidry, a first-team selection and a pitcher as well. That one makes a little more sense. He's a fairly known commodity. And in this era where a lot of teams are relying on the transfer portal, you've got a lot of guys who come in and pitch for 1 year and then move on, a la Luke Holman, Gage Jump, those guys who came in for a year and then moved on from LSU. And Gavin Guidry's been pitching big innings for LSU for 2 years, basically. So for him to get some recognition from the coaches, I didn't think was super surprising. I'll go back to Anderson there because I wrote for LouisianaSports.net today a breakdown of LSU's starting pitching, and I profiled Anderson as the ace of the staff. And I feel strongly that that's going to be the case come Friday afternoon of next week. I think he'll be the opening day starter. If he's not, I think that there will be some sort of lifetime achievement deal for Gavin Guidry or something. But I feel like Cade Anderson is thought of as the best pitcher on the staff by the LSU coaching staff right now. He is I've listed his stats at the website on LouisianaSports.net, but you look at what he did through some of his outings. Over the course of 2 outings against Rice and Southeastern, 10 innings, 20 strikeouts, and no earned runs. You look at his 2 outings against Wofford and North Carolina in the regional. He threw 2 1/3 innings, which obviously means 7 outs. He had 6 strikeouts in those 2 1/3. The stuff's great, and I think he's trying to take that next step. And I think Cade Anderson may be the most important player on the team. I don't think it's hyperbole to suggest he's the most important player on the team. Because, yes, Jared Jones is that offensively, and yes, you'd love Danny Dickinson to break out and become a star, and Cade Arambeedy's got so much potential, and Stephen Milam, working into his second year as a starter, could be a great player, an all-SEC type player. But the ace is so important. You take the ball on Friday, you take the ball in a big spot in a regional or super or in Omaha, and you got to be great. And I think Cade Anderson is the guy who has the inside track to be that for LSU. So for him to get that recognition from the coaches out of the chute, I think speaks volumes for him. I mentioned Danny Dickinson. He is a second-team all-conference selection as a second baseman. If you all have been listening to me day over day talk about the LSU team position by position like I'm doing for LouisianaSports.net, you heard me talk cautiously optimistically about Danny Dickinson. There's no question he's got some physical tools. He runs really well. He's got enough bat speed to hit the ball out of the ballpark. He's a dirt bag in the sense that he's a baseball guy, loves to get dirty, loves to work, loves to practice, loves the game, loves the grind. But you just never know when a Utah Valley transfer goes to the SEC what that's going to look like. And so for me, I'm hopeful that Danny Dickinson is an all-conference player, a second-team all-SEC player. And if he hits .314 with 16 home runs, that's going to be massive for this LSU team. He'll hit at the top or in the middle of the order. I'm just cautious about what that transition is going to look like for him. So there's your 4 LSU players who got some all-conference recognition: Dickinson, Jones, Anderson, Guidry. Interestingly enough, Stephen Milam not listed as the all-conference hopefuls. I thought that was a little bit surprising, but that's really the only guy that I could point to as a bit of a snub. I don't think Josh Pearson or Michael Braswell has kind of earned that. I'm not shocked that Derek Curiel wasn't listed. That could happen pretty quickly. He could make some waves, but he's an unproven commodity at this point as a freshman. So those are your guys. As far as the order of finish goes for LSU, for the SEC, there were obviously 16 first-place votes that were issued by the coaches, and Texas A&M got 10 of them. When you consider that Michael Early, who's the head coach at Texas A&M now, can't vote for his team at first place, you're talking about 10 of 15 possible first-place votes went to Texas A&M. That's the kind of roster that the coaching staffs in the SEC believe A&M has. I've had some conversations with LSU, with folks inside the building at LSU, and the sense is, candidly, that A&M's got the most talented roster. What does that mean? We'll see. Doesn't always work out, but that's a team that folks think are going to be really, really good. They were picked to win the league, obviously, with 10 first-place votes. Tennessee got a first-place vote. They are second place in projected finish. Arkansas got 3 first-place votes, which is interesting because they really haven't hit for the last couple of years, but they got 3 first-place votes. They're projected third-place team in the SEC. LSU comes in 4th with 1 first-place vote. Florida comes in 5th with 1 first-place vote. Arkansas and Tennessee were just about a toss-up at 2 and 3 overall. LSU comes in behind them at number 4. And honestly, I think that's pretty fair as far as ranking LSU. You look at what LSU has, and it's a lot of talent and a lot of potential. But you're talking about a group that is replacing Holman and Jump, who were vital to what LSU did from a pitching perspective last year as far as starts. LSU won 11 of their last 13 starts last year. That's a big, big deal to lose them and have nobody that's been an SEC Friday, Saturday, Sunday guy waiting in the wings. Nobody. So you've got to develop that. You lose Griffin Herring as a closer. Who you got in the back end? You feel like Connor Ware is going to be great. At least I do. I feel like there's a possibility that Gavin Guidry moves back there and is a proven commodity, but you're replacing that. And then outside of Jared Jones and Stephen Milam, it's not a star-studded lineup as far as proven guys. Maybe Dickinson is. Maybe Curiel is. Maybe Stanfield really takes a step up. Maybe you look over at third base and Michael Braswell takes another step offensively and becomes an all-conference type player. But you really are replacing a lot. This is not like 2023, when you were bringing back Cruz and you were bringing back Morgan and you were bringing back Dugas and you're bringing back Thompson, and you knew what you had in those guys. And Pearson was, quite frankly, coming back after a really strong finish to his freshman year. You didn't quite know at that point, what you could have gotten from Cade Beloso. That wasn't necessarily projectable. What Travinsky meant to them late in the season wasn't totally projectable, and certainly nobody could have thought that Skeens would become what he was. But the lineup had so many proven pieces that you figure number 1 ranking makes some sense for them. And in the same way that it does for Texas A&M, based on them getting to the national final last year, coming up 1 game short, and bringing back as much as they do with Jace Laviolette, who's the National Player of the Year front runner, and you bring back Gavin Grahovac, and you bring back Tanner Schott. Like, there's just a lot of guys they bring back that are really, really good players. So I think it's pretty fair where LSU is. I think if I had to pick the SEC right about now, I would have LSU in the 3 or 4 spot. And guess what? If you finish in the 3rd or 4th spot in the Southeastern Conference, you will host a super regional at the box, assuming you win your regional. So I think there are probably some LSU fans that would look at this and go, oh, my God, the disrespect. This team is stacked. They've got so much talent. They're going to be an absolute handful. You think Tennessee's better than them with all they lost? You think Arkansas is better than them with all they lost? Well, what I would counter is that, it doesn't really matter. If you're 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, as long as you're in that top 4 in the SEC, there's a strong, strong, strong likelihood that you will be a national seed. And that's all the first 56 games plus the conference tournament are there for. That's it. If you're the 1 national seed, if you're the 8 national seed, it doesn't really matter that much. You don't have to play the other ones in the regional or super regional. By the time we get to Omaha, you can't try to run the bracket that far down the road. It almost never works out that way. So I'm comfortable with where LSU is. The only issue I kind of have with this 1st and 2nd team look is that Stephen Milam didn't get a nod, but that's okay. There's some really good shortstops and third basemen in this league, so you may not feel like Stephen Milam hits for enough power to move his way to the top of that pecking order. But 4 LSU Tigers, Jared Jones, Cade Anderson, Gavin Guidry, 1st team All-League. You got Danny Dickinson in the second team, and LSU picked 4th in the SEC. Briefly, let me take one look at LSU and Georgia in basketball tonight, and then we'll get right back to guests and football. But I do want to keep some local angles to the show as we move through the week. This is LSU and Georgia tonight, 9 o'clock Athens time, and 8 o'clock tip-off Central time. Two teams that desperately need a win. You're looking at a Georgia team that's 15-7 overall, but just 3-6 in league play. They've lost 4 of their last 5. The only win was against South Carolina in Athens, so that's not exactly a huge get for the Bulldogs. Mike White is 15-30 in 2.5 seasons at the helm. They just haven't turned a corner. And you look at that, it gets a little dicey, and they've got to find a way to win some games. Do not expect either team to be chucking them in from deep in this game tonight. You're looking at a Georgia team that is 249th in the country in three-point percentage. That's better than LSU nationally, but still almost 250th in the country. And in league play, Georgia is shooting about 26% from the three-point line. That is the worst of any team in the Southeastern Conference. So that's awful. We mentioned LSU shooting last week. They were awful on Saturday shooting the ball, 2 of 15, I think, from three-point range. So two teams that can't shoot. So what are they going to do? They're going to drive. They're going to drive. They're going to drive. They're going to drive. For Georgia, you look at Blue Kane and Silas Demery. Those are the two guys that are 6'4", 6'5" wings that are going to do a lot of driving. It's LSU's job to keep them out of the paint, and they're not driving to dish. Georgia is way down the list, 211th in the country in terms of assists per game. They're driving to try to score, and so that'll be Cam Carter and Jai Bailey's job to keep them out of the paint and try to force Georgia to shoot over the top of LSU's defense. And then LSU's got to rebound, and they haven't rebounded worth a flip. We know that. They've got to do it in a big way. Georgia does hang its hat on the defensive end, and they've been good on the defensive end. They're 30th in the country in defensive efficiency. They're 22nd in the country in opposing shooting percentage. Those are really, really strong marks, and Georgia is a good defensive team. They've got length. Those two wings I told you are 6'5", and then they've got Asa Newell, who's from Destin, a 6'10" freshman who's averaging 15 points a game, but also does a good job on the defensive end for them. So LSU's going to have to work to get shots against a defense that's been pretty good. Here's my 2 cents on LSU's offense. Cam Carter shot 2 3-pointers on Saturday and 2 3-pointers on Wednesday before that against Auburn. He shot 4 threes in 2 games. He's got to shoot more. I don't need him chucking up 12 threes a night with a hand in his face. Nobody needs that. He's clearly their best offensive option, and he clearly needs to shoot the ball more than that. Every time Jai Bailey takes an open 3, or Derek Fountain shoots an open 3 from the wing, or Trey'Dez Green shoots a run-in one-hander, anytime that you get that shot, instead of Cam Carter putting a shot up, you're getting a worse shot. And again, I don't need Cam to shoot it 24 times. But he's got to shoot more than 2 threes in a game for LSU to offensively be dangerous. Everybody knows that Cam Carter is number 1 on their scouting report when you play LSU. Everybody understands that, and so that can be difficult. But the coaching staff at LSU has to find a way to create some shots for him. And you can do that by inbounding the ball to him and let him take it up and initiating the offense that way, or you can try to free him up off the ball. But LSU's got to get Cam Carter more shots, because the more time somebody else shoots it, the better the opposing bench is going to feel. So Georgia is somewhere in the neighborhood of a 7-8 point favorite, depending on where you look at this one. They've been really good at home this year. They're 12-1. They've won 10 of those 12 by double digits. They beat Kentucky by double figures in Stegman. They played Auburn very close in Stegman. They've been good at home, and so this will be a tough game for LSU to go on the road and win. But hopefully they can get one, because LSU's in desperate need of a W tonight in Stegman Coliseum. Again, tip-off tonight, SEC Network, 8 o'clock. Dave Neal and John Sunvolt will be on the call for the SEC Network this evening. All right, that leaves basketball in the rearview mirror. Got a little baseball out of the way as well. We got plenty to do over the course of the next half hour, and really hour and a half. When we come back, Q Myers from ESPN Radio's national lineup is going to jump aboard. That's next on a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think Genesis, think luxury. Sometimes when I say luxury vehicle, you may think of different brands that have been around for a long time, and that's okay, but just give Genesis a shot. They'll stack right up. And I can promise you, if you think luxury and you go, well, I can't afford that, you might want to take a look. Genesis of Baton Rouge is happy to help you with that. Their brand ambassadors are fantastic to work with. Got an incredible line of vehicles from the sedan all the way up through the SUV. They're safe, they're stylish, they're sleek, they're comfortable, and the experience once you get behind the wheel, especially with the folks that you'll work with over there on Airline at Pico, is first class. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can check them out online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The Hunt Palmer Show, live from Super Bowl 59 Radio Row in New Orleans. Presented by L'Auberge Casino Hotel, Baton Rouge.
Wednesday is Super Bowl week. We're here on Radio Row, presented by L'Auberge of Baton Rouge, and fired up to be here getting ready for the Chiefs and the Eagles coming up in the Dome Sunday night. We've been here since Monday. That's child's play compared to my next guest, Q Myers, from what soon to be the Joe and Q show, launching on Monday, ESPN Las Vegas. A variety of places you can find Q Myers. We appreciate some time, man. How are you?
Oh, man, fantastic. Excited about the show, man. Joe's my guy, Joe Fortenbaugh. I've known him for a long time. So, yeah, I'm excited to have an opportunity to learn a little something, right? I mean, the guy's expert when it comes to, anything, but I get that opportunity to hang out with my friends in the midday. So, yeah, excited what we got going on, man. ESPN Radio, we're going to launch on Monday, right? So here we go. It's like we're leading into the biggest game, and then all of a sudden we're going to, have a new show. So they even gave it – I'm on a piece of paper now.
You're on a piece of paper.
I'm
I
on
got
a piece
it right
of paper.
Here.
I've been like stressing this thing. I can't wait till this is all done. I get to call my mom and be like, Mom, I'm on a piece of paper, and the picture actually looks pretty good.
It looks real good. Mama, I made it to the paper.
It wasn't a bathroom selfie. It was a good one, so I'm good.
So, look, I was looking into your background. You've been a lot of places on the West Coast, a couple stops in California, now ESPN Las Vegas. I saw Monterey on there. I've only been in Monterey for 3 days of my life.
Oh, okay.
How did you leave?
Well, one, it's expensive, right?
It is, yes.
It's very expensive. It was funny. I was working at a hip-hop station at the time.
Okay.
And so it was a pretty good one. We were going up against the flagship, the hip-hop station that's been there forever. So we were, that was an uphill battle. But, yeah, it was cool. It was a great area. It's funny. I was living in Seaside at the time, right? And the radio station was in Monterey. And Herm Edwards. So, and Herm Edwards, obviously, on ESPN Radio as well. Longtime NFL coach. And he lived in Seaside as well. So as soon as I got there, it was like, hey, Herm Edwards is from here. I think he still lives there, matter of fact. But they're like, hey, Herm Edwards is from here. So every time people said, hey, man, you're living in Seaside, I was like, yes, the home of Herm Edwards. So that was it. So I had to always make sure I said that. So when I see Coach in the hallway, I was like, Coach, I lived in Seaside. I know you lived there. He's like, yeah. So he starts going on about Seaside, and so we like to. That's our connection. But yeah, it's a very expensive place. But man, what a beautiful drive.
Yeah,
you drive in off the road, and the ocean's right there. Pebble Beach is up the street. One time I went to Pebble Beach and I ate on the 18th hole.
There you go.
And I ate there. I did not play.
I
ate there, and it was some really good food. But I ate there, and there was a big old picture of Tiger Woods when he won back in the day. I guess
2000.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. There it is. See?
I can do golf. We got to talk some football, though. I'm curious, before we get to the game, you spent some time in Las Vegas, and that is, over the last 15 years, become one of our major sports cities with teams kind of coming to Las Vegas. How's that taken to Vegas?
It's great, man. It's great. And, when I arrived in Vegas in 2021, I feel like I was right ahead of the curve. Right, so now the draft has been there, the Super Bowl's been there, we've got the national championship game coming up in a year or so. Like, there's so many different, all the basketball events are there. So many different things are arriving in Vegas, all the teams that are there. Obviously, the Raiders, I cover them locally, but the Golden Knights have won a championship. The Aces are back-to-back, they were back-to-back champs. Like, there's so many different entities that are coming there. The NBA will be there soon. It's really growing, and I'm so excited to continue to see it grow. I mean, we all know Vegas, we think of the parties and everything. And yeah, of course that's there, but there's so much more to it now. And so it's going to be great just to see it continue to grow and see the fans and the locals that live there excited to be there.
We're still covering a coaching search with the Saints here locally. We think we've got the end of it with Kellen Moore coming on Monday or Tuesday. The Raiders just got out of a coaching search where Pete Carroll just showed up. What was the search like, and how was the reaction to the result there?
Well, everyone thought that it was going to be somebody like maybe it wasn't going to be Pete Carroll. Nobody thought it was going to be Ben Johnson, even though he got an interview. It's just like, okay, who are the Raiders going to have to settle for? Like, that was the big thing. It's like, oh, they're going to have to settle. But then Tom Brady put the influence in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they get an interview with Ben Johnson. And it's like, hey, I have colleagues that say, I heard that Pete wants to come here. I was like, Pete who? Pete Carroll. I was like, wait, what? And so that all of a sudden intrigued me. And then they start doing a coaching search. And they do the coaching search. They go through a firm that has been, very good at getting different coaches in or whatever like that, trying to find them. And all of a sudden it started making sense. And then they hired the GM before they hired the coach. It's like, wow, I mean, this is actually stuff that you're supposed to do. So it's great, and I'm excited about Pete Carroll. He's the youngest 73-year-old out there. I know he'll be 74 when the season kicks off next year, but he's got more energy than I do. That's what I keep telling everyone. I was like, man, if you're worried about his age, don't be. That dude, he's going to be fine. He knows what it looks like. He's been there, done that. So that to me is the biggest thing. It's like, how do you put this team together so that they're something that's really taken seriously instead of just, some kind of, well, maybe this one year they're good and, they're not good anymore. No, it's like they have to be a consistent team. So Pete Carroll's going to try to lay that groundwork.
Chatting with Q Myers, going to be the new host of Joe and Q. That'll launch on this coming Monday, 11 to 2 o'clock our time, ESPN National Radio. All right, let's talk about this game. Are you sick of the Eagles and Chiefs? I keep talking to people that are. I think they're really good. I'm excited to watch them play.
I'm sick of the Chiefs.
Okay.
I mean, but you can't really be sick of greatness, right? It's just
that's
the
where
fact,
I'm coming from.
I mean, but you mentioned I'm in Vegas, so I mean, of course, there's the Raiders ties there. So sick of seeing that success, but at the same time, I admire it. Right? I mean, how do you continue to evolve? And even when people tell you don't have enough weapons, you're having a down year, you're barely getting by. Like, that's what we heard all year. Well, what do they have to do? Well, it's like, but they're barely getting by. Yeah, but they're barely winning. Who cares? Right? Nobody cares. Like, does anyone care what happened in week 7? You check the box score and you're like, oh, no, they won. You're not going to be like, well, yeah, but remember they had to block a field goal or whatever. You don't care. They just won, and now they're here in the Super Bowl again. And so if I was going to place money on the game, I would definitely bet on the Chiefs because I'd be a fool not to. I think that there's a path. I know that there's a path for the Eagles to win, and that's why, to your point, this is an exciting game, right? It's 2 years ago. Jalen Hurts, I mean, all the claims are he played better than Mahomes in that game, but they lost. So now, okay, can you play better than Mahomes and win? So now, you have Saquon Barkley, you have the weapons, you have a really good defense, you have an offensive line that's second to none. You have the tools to get it done, but when push comes to shove, can you do it? Right? I mean, that's the thing.
I'm going to ask you, can they do it?
I mean, yeah, they can. They can, but will they is another question, right? I mean, will they? You can't make mistakes. You can't think about it not making mistakes, but you can't make mistakes. You can't get down double-digit points. If you do, they're going to put the nail in the coffin, right? And they got to have Saquon Barkley be big. Obviously, he's went for 2,000 yards this year. So he's got to continue to have that same recipe. But if you get down 12, 14 points, then all of a sudden it's drop back. Chris Jones just pins his ears back.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Thank you. We're in SEC country in Baton Rouge. We know Chris Jones from Mississippi State all too well. That's not a dude you want to be dealing with in a pass rush situation really ever. What's your trust level in Jalen Hurts in the fourth quarter of a really close game?
I think he can do it. I think he can get it done. I was a big Jalen Hurts fan even when he was at Alabama, right? I thought that he was a really good player. I thought that he had that opportunity to take off, and of course, we all know how it shook out. He got benched, he got one back in, he went to Oklahoma. But I've always loved his work ethic, his grind, his I can do this. I can lead you to where I can lead you to a championship. I think he can do it. But again, it's got to be close because if they get down a lot and he has to drop back every time, then I think that it's going to be too hard to overcome that. And he can't make a mistake. And we remember the first game, he made a mistake, right? The fumble got taken back. I mean, that's what you can't do. And the one thing that he does that he cannot do on Sunday, a lot of times he'll get pressure, he starts scrambling, all of a sudden you look back, he just lost 10 yards. That might take you out of field goal range.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you just took points off the board. You can't do that.
I've enjoyed asking people who have come here from wherever they may be, in your case, Vegas. How have you liked New Orleans this week?
I love New Orleans.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time that it's my favorite city, and I've only been here now 3 times. But everyone's like, oh, I thought you went all the time. I was like, no. I've been here for the Harbaugh Bowl, right,
okay,
for Baltimore and San Francisco.
The lights went out.
Yes, the Beyonce Bowl, I should call it, right? I was on Bourbon Street when that happened. That's another story.
There you go. We all have them down here. We
right.
know.
Well, that was my first Super Bowl, so it comes full circle, right? And now all of a sudden I'm here, and instead of being, running around chasing, which I am doing, I'm chasing a bunch of guests trying to get them locked down. I'm going, on tour, right? I'm having fun. I'm talking to different radio stations, that are affiliates and everything, and it's a lot of fun. But, it's just like, that was a great game. This is going to have an opportunity to be a great game. Man, I'm excited. And then just being in New Orleans again, I came here for that one, like I mentioned, and then Baylor played LSU. Was it LSU in the Sugar Bowl? Yeah, and that was when Matt Rule.
Baylor played Georgia. Yep,
Georgia.
Yeah.
There it was. Baylor played Georgia, and that's when Matt Rule was the head coach. And then he went to Charlotte after that. He went to Carolina. And so that was my second time here. That was 2020, and then this is my third time here. But I talk about this place like this is home.
Well, enjoy it. We'll be listening to you each and every day. Keith Q. Myers, host of Joe and Q, that's going to launch this coming Monday, 11 to 2 o'clock our time on ESPN Radio. Q, enjoy your time. Enjoy the football. Safe travels home.
Barbecue, shrimp, grits.
You better believe it.
Love it.
We know it well. That's Q Myers. Appreciate a little bit of time. We're going to step aside. We'll come back and close out hour number one. It's been a fast-moving hour number one. Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, going to be next. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carbo and his team are fantastic to work with. They're experts when it comes to the coverage side of insurance. I know that it's not the most fun thing to talk about, but the deal is you never know when that hurricane's coming. You never know when that car accident's coming, when that lawsuit may be coming. You never know. And then it does. And you want to make sure that you're covered on the front end. You don't want to see that happen and then go to your insurance policy and start flipping through pages hoping there's no exclusion that's cutting that out, hoping that your limit is adequate because all you looked at was the premium on the front end. When you trust your broker like you can trust the Highland Insurance Group, you won't be scrambling if that incident were to happen. You'll be protected. And that's the most important aspect when it comes to insurance. So go check them out online at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number one here, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show from Radio Row, presented by LeBears of Baton Rouge. Now our pleasure to welcome to the set here, Mitch Holthus. He's a play-by-play voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Is this getting old, or it's just part of the gig?
No, it doesn't get old. You go 21 years without a playoff victory.
Yeah.
It's my 31st year, and we went, a long time. We were on the other side of the river. You don't take any of this for granted, although it's been a pretty magnificent run. When you think 17 playoff victories in a 7-year span is the most of any team in NFL history, and it's just been a remarkable story. There's so many stories nobody's really touched on, in my opinion. They get stuck on some false narratives, but it's really cool to come back here to try to make history because of Super Bowl IV. And our guys are working out at Tulane. It was Tulane Stadium where the Chiefs won Super Bowl IV, and Jan Stenerud had the 3 field goals, and so to come back to New Orleans is awesome.
And we're thrilled to have Chiefs Nation here. Chiefs. I know Kingdom.
There
it is.
Right.
I was going to get there. It was coming. Is that right?
I'll take credit for that.
How about that?
Yep,
well,
I coined the phrase.
I'm glad I got it right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the change in the team as the organization has moved forward, because when I thought of those early Chiefs great teams, I thought about Tyreek Hill and the speed with which they were doing it and the flair with which Mahomes was playing. And now I watch them on Sunday, and they win 21-17 because their defense is awesome, and they took care of the ball, and they made the 3 plays they had to move. What has that been like to watch over the last 5-7 years?
It's the brilliance of Andy Reid and the comprehensive nature of this entire team, not just the offense. I've given it the analogy. It's a pitcher that threw 95 on the black, still could, but figures out a way to throw a cutter and to get you out. That's what Mahomes has done. That's what this offense has done. It's what the defense has done. But when you look at the Patriots run of 2 decades, they did it all different ways.
They did.
Everybody thinks it's the same. No, they did it different ways. And that's what the Chiefs have done. Honestly, to win consistently in this league, which is built not to do that, as you guys well know, you have to reinvent yourself. And the Chiefs have done that in this 7-year run. They have done that 3 or 4 times.
Do you have more confidence when the Chiefs' defense is on the field or when the offense is on the field?
I've learned that I'm going to give you a wishy-washy answer. I've learned that I got confidence in all 3 phases.
Yep.
This is also a special teams. It had a 63-yard kickoff return, 41-yard punt return in the playoffs, and blocked another field goal, had a block-off win on a field goal. And so I've learned in all 4 Butker's kick, game winner after game winner, has the all-time field goal in Super Bowl history. I just have confidence in this entire team, no matter the group.
What do you think the Chiefs staff is concerned about on Sunday?
Well, Philadelphia's really changed the way they're doing business since Super Bowl 57. Everybody thinks it's the same team, and it's not even their approach. Now, one thing that I think that will help the Chiefs in this game is I think they just played the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're getting ready to play the Buffalo Eagles, and they're getting ready to play the Philadelphia Bills, because there's very, very similar in approach. Now, the one thing is Barkley, and the fact that they are going against football genre, if you will, because everybody in the football, college, and NFL specific say you've got to throw to win. Well, the Eagles have disproven that because they're getting home run plays in the run game. For example, Barkley's got an NFL record already of 7 60-plus yard touchdown runs. He's got a couple more 50s. Now, those 7 have primarily been against 2 teams. He has 4 against the Rams and 2 against the Commanders. But still, they hit home runs in the run game. That's where they're different and have to be prepared. And then the Eagles have done a very good job of drafting to their defense, much like we have. They've had Quinion Marshall was one of my favorite players coming out of the draft this year. And then to get Cooper DeJean basically in the Chiefs' Kingdom in Ida Grove, Iowa, was a big get for them. And then the Georgia Bulldog All-Stars. So they're just this is a really good team, again, comprehensive, but different than Super Bowl 57, much like the Chiefs are.
Is there anything we can draw from 57?
Not really. I don't think there's much there. Yeah, no, I think that these are just 2 strong teams and very talented teams. The people where they have to be careful about trying to pigeonhole the Chiefs is they've won so many different ways this year. The class of 22 is not talked about enough. They have 8 draft picks from that class still here and flourishing.
See, that's where New Orleans has just disintegrated. They have drafted so poorly. They have traded away the selections. They traded the selections away to go get one player here or there, and then it busts. And we try to talk on and to analyze the Saints, going, you've got to take players that are cheap and young and good. That's the way it's the only way you can sustain it, especially when you got to pay your quarterback as much as the great teams in the NFL eventually do.
And the second piece of the discussion, to dovetail off that, is what the Chiefs did in 2024, and Brett Veach doesn't get enough credit. So they add DeAndre Hopkins. Mm-hmm. So they get the veteran at the right price, right deal. They have to. And then they get Kareem Hunt, who was dismissed from the team in 2018, missed all of this, and now he's back. Those guys walked on that stage at the Superdome Monday night, getting an opportunity they never thought they would have. Then you get Hollywood Brown. So you've got to draft well. To your point, you have to. And the Chiefs have it. 21, 22, 23, 24. They had pieces, but the 22 class is all intact. That's 8 guys and an undrafted free agent, Jack Cochran, that are all still here. Those are lug nuts of this wheel. That's why they're in this game. But then you add pieces. So, but if you don't draft well, especially when you're drafting last, then you have no shot.
I was looking as I was preparing to come down here for the week and getting acquainted with 2 teams that we don't cover until they get here.
Right.
I'm looking at Andy Reid and how he stacks up, and he's right there in the top 5 all-time in wins, and he could tie Chuck Noll on Sunday. Do you think he's motivated by any of that, or he just likes the fact that he's got Mahomes and they're winning and it's fun and he can still do it and he's still here?
No, but you better get room for a 5th face on Mount Rushmore, or you better find another mountain, because he's right there. He is right there.
There's no doubt.
With all those guys. Like you mentioned where he's had an overall wins. If he gets this game, he'll be his 29th postseason win. Belichick's got 31. You don't get NFL postseason wins in North Carolina. So he's stopped. Here comes Andy. He'll zoom past that. But you look at his overall wins, his playoff wins, what he's been able to do with different quarterbacks. He's the only guy in NFL history to have 100 wins at 2 separate franchises, and the only guy in NFL history that's the winningest coach at 2 separate franchises. So if he doesn't have his own mountain, you better find room to move Shula over or somebody, Lombardi, because Andy's in that same discussion.
So we're local here, obviously. How have you enjoyed your time in New Orleans for Super Bowl?
I love it. Again, we've been down here before, whether it's business or pleasure. Again, to talk about the historical tie-in. I love to study the history of this city. It's like no other city in our nation.
Right.
It's like its own country, actually. Truthfully, going back to the 1700s. But it's just so unique and has its own charm. So And then, it'll follow the Saints. We played you guys this year.
Right.
You got 5 different Chiefs
Yeah.
on the Saints roster now. And some of my favorite all-time guys, Colin Saunders is awesome. I hated to lose him. Tano Passanio, Willie Gay Jr. These are all guys that were part of the run and building the run. So they got Super Bowl rings from us. So I wish them well, and hopefully the Saints get it rolling again.
We hope so. They got to get a new coach in place next week, and then we'll see where
That'll
things
take
go
about,
from there.
let's see, zeros on the clock. He won't even have to. He's in the same locker room.
Here. He's here.
Well, he's in the same locker. You guys, I'm sorry, the Eagles have your guys' locker room.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're the home team. They're the NFC team.
Okay.
And so, dude, he's just going to.
He was getting peppered by the local media back on Media Day, and he couldn't bite, obviously, but it was funny to watch the interaction. He'll be.
We saw it
it'll be
before
quick.
with Seekin and Gannon back in '57. Like it was 3, 2, 1, Colts and Cardinals, and he was in town. Like he was in town. So it's just same thing. Like he didn't have to leave his locker.
Yeah.
Just bring me the fleur-de-lis. It just don't need green stuff.
There it is. Well, Mitch, we appreciate some time. Enjoy the city. Have a great call on Sunday.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being such a gracious host.
It's our pleasure. Mitch Holthus is the play-by-play voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Got a pretty big one coming up on Sunday. They can make some history. That'll do it for hour number 1 here from Radio Row on a Wednesday. We got a ton to do in hour number 2 as well. Laura Oakman from NFL on Fox and Westwood 1 is going to be by. She'll be on the sideline for the Super Bowl on Sunday. And then Adam Bedelli from StubHub. If you're in the area and you're trying to get in, well, here's a good opportunity. It may cost you a little bit, though. We'll talk to Adam about that at the bottom of hour number 2. Missed any of today's show, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your audio, and, of course, on YouTube. We'll step aside for SportsCenter, get your national headlines, but a lot of them come from right here. We'll be back with hour 2 of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.